So Spider-Man is going to lead the Avengers in the brand new Avengers, the Kang Dynasty. Are we completely sure? Well, this is coming from My Time to Shine Hello, who did put out this tweet saying that Spider-Man will be the leader, or maybe not the leader essentially, but will lead the film Avengers Kang Dynasty, which is due to come out 2025. I'm going to say this right now. I doubt it's coming 2025. I do believe it'll come out 2026 because I don't know, with Marvel's delaying their movies or shows right now, the MCU kind of taking a shift after now Bob Iger is now back in Disney and Chapek is finally gone. You are seeing Marvel is going to improve within the next few years, especially because there is much more criticism of the MCU. I even made a video about this on my channel, but I do think the MCU magic is not what it was a couple of years ago. And excuse me. Do I think it's a good idea to have Tom Holland as Spider-Man? Well, first of all, I do think this is possible. One thing that the Avengers, or not the Avengers, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been missing is kind of the forefront of the universe. It used to be Tony and Cap. Those were the two main figures. You could also say that Thor was one of the main figures, but usually most people went on to Cap and Tony, and those were the two figures. And then the MCU was kind of built around them. You had the Guardians movies there. You had Doctor Strange. They were your two faces, and that when you got to Avengers movies, you always knew you were going to get them most. If you look at Age of Ultron, the first Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame, who do we see mainly? Tony, Cap. Although in Infinity War, Cap was highly sidelined. He really wasn't a main figure in that film. But it does make sense that they're going with Tom Holland Spider-Man. First of all, a lot of the MCU characters we're being introduced to are still relatively new. Shang-Chi, the Eternal, She-Hulk, all these other characters, they're pretty new. And they don't have the proven box office potential that Tom Holland Spider-Man has. Or not just Tom Holland Spider-Man, but Spider-Man in general. Spider-Man in general is just way too popular to be in the sidelines, and it makes complete sense that they would put him as the lead. It is a little confusing because he is still young. He's still going to be in his early 20s, and imagine you're like 30, 40, especially someone like Jennifer Walters, who's a full-on lawyer, Bruce Banner, an intelligent scientist, Thor, a god, Shang-Chi, mixed martial artist. You see all these characters, and you kind of wonder, how are they going to take orders from Spider-Man? And it makes sense because Spider-Man is the most popular character, but just looking at it in the lens of the movie itself, that is going to feel a little weird. Now, I don't think that's essentially what this scoop means. And again, always take scoops with a grain of salt. Do not just trust them blindly. But the thing is, I do think the movie will mainly put the screen time on Spider-Man. He just won't be the leader. I think essentially that's what this scoop is trying to say. So I don't see him as a leader, but I do see him as getting a lot more screen time than he did in Infinity War or Endgame, especially Endgame. But do I think it's a good idea? Yeah. People already love Tom Holland's Spider-Man. He already has 3 entire films, and he's about to get his 4th. It is right now the MCU's most profitable part. Besides the Avengers title itself, Spider-Man is the most profitable character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and not just the MCU, but Marvel Comics as a whole. Spider-Man is the most popular Marvel character of all time. So you kind of have to bring him to the forefront, make him a main Avenger. Maybe just don't make him a leader. Now, one thing I do hope that they go forward with this is when we see Spider-Man, we see this kid who's scared of revealing his identity. We already seen what's happened when he's done it, the mistakes, everything. And I hope that this Spider-Man is so nervous to reveal himself that, most of the time you see him with the mask. There's going to be times where maybe he goes to the restroom, and he takes off his mask so that he could breathe for a bit, And I do also want Peter to make friends with a lot of the characters. Like Shang-Chi would make sense. Shang-Chi is pretty young. I think he's supposed to be like late 20s, so not that far off. Kamala Khan, she's supposed to be a teenager, like 18, 17, 16, somewhere around a couple years behind Peter Parker. There's a couple characters I would like him to be friends with, and he kind of grows a trusting bond with these characters, especially after having lost his friends, after having, being left completely anonymous. He doesn't really have anyone to go to anymore. Happy doesn't know him. Aunt May is dead. Ned and MJ forgot about him. It's like, man, Peter is going to go through a lot of shit, which is always the Spider-Man story, the good old-fashioned Spidey story. But no, I think it's a good idea. It makes complete sense. Just that I hope, I'm fine if Spider-Man does become a leader. I just think right now it just doesn't really make much sense, especially when you still have Bruce Banner out there, you still have Thor out there, so it's like kind of like, you know, right? And I'm gonna say this straight up. If it was up to me, I would make Thor and Banner be the main leads. Although I would make Thor the main lead, and maybe we can stop with his Thor movies or something. Maybe give him like one more Thor movie and let him be kind of what they did with Iron Man after Iron Man 3, where he was the essential lead of quite literally all the Avengers movies. He was a major factor of Civil War. He had a major cameo in Homecoming. You know, Tony, while he never got another, you know, fourth Iron Man film, he still was the face. He was he's the way to go. The cameras always wanted to point towards Tony Stark, right? And I guess I feel like they should do that with Thor. Although I'm fine if they give him one more movie just to give a send-off, especially because he's no longer the king of Asgard. He's not the Thor that we come to know as much. You know, it's like I feel like a lot of Thor's story is almost done. And I remember I felt that way during Love and Thunder. Because I feel like after Love and Thunder, and while I didn't like the movie, I like that they did end off the Jane and Thor story. I thought it was a beautiful way to send it off. But overall, I'm like, what other stories does Thor have to do? No longer is it Asgard. Asgard's an Earth now. What more stories do you have with Thor himself? And I felt the same way with Iron Man, where you did have stories, but you just didn't have solo stories to give him. It was more now stories that revolved around also including other characters. When you go to Civil War, Age of Ultron, all the other Avengers films, that's kind of how I feel with what they ended up doing with Iron Man. And I thought what they did with Iron Man was perfect, especially his send off in Endgame and everything. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see and find out. I do hope that if he does lead the Avengers, you get some memories of Peter remembering Tony. While I never liked the Tony Stark Jr. aspect, I did always like the Tony being a mentor to Peter, because, you know, it was kind of the first superhero to talk to him. He was the first guy to talk to about this crime fighting life, you know. And I would like for maybe Peter feeling like he needs to step up because there's no more in Iron Man, right? Not that he's Iron Man Jr., just that Iron Man is kind of his inspiration, his hero. But anyways, those are my thoughts. Thank you guys for watching this video. You guys let us know in the comment section down below. What do you think about this? Do you agree, disagree, whatever it is? Let us know in the comment section down below. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Ciao.
Where do you go to? Where do you go? Where do you go to? I wanna know. How do you do it? That thing you do. Follow you blindly, I'll be your fool. Cinderella, I think I'll find your glass slipper, babe.